Welcome to episode 202 of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South. On today's episode, we preview Week 7 in college football. You can find this show on our website, SaturdayDownSouth.com, and Apple and Spotify. Don't forget to join us for the live recording of the show every Sunday night at 8 Eastern Time on the Saturday Down South YouTube page. Go share the podcast with your friends. We're looking to expand the pod. You can find clips from the show on Twitter at SatDownSouth and at SatFB Uncensored, on Instagram and TikTok at Saturday Down South. And you can find us on YouTube, of course, at Saturday Down South. And now, here's the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South at Texas Pete. I'm your host, Tyler Huck, and with me, as always, is my co-host, in a chipper mood today, Chris Marler. Chris, under the weather today, I see.
Well, I don't know why you said it like you see.
Well, I see that you told me that you're not feeling well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just like the rain outside, or like I've been watching like some docs on like some Colts and stuff. I mean, maybe that's not helping the mood. Colt week should have already passed because Bama doesn't play A&M this week. But yeah, I've been on radio all day, and I noticed it from jump. I just have had a real feisty attitude today, so it should be a fun episode. I can't wait.
Well, before we get into the slate here, I wanted to play a little sound clip of, I think it was maybe like a coach's show up in Kentucky, and this went viral this week, and a certain fan base took offense to the quote. So let me play it, and then we'll talk about it.
You know, the other side of that, the other side, if you want to do that, it's blame, complain, deny, or make excuses. And we're not going to do that. You know, it is what it is. And, fans have that right. I give it to them. I just encourage them to donate more, because that's what those teams are doing. I can promise you, in Georgia, they bought some pretty good players. You're allowed to these days. And we could use some help. That's what they look like. You know what I mean? When you have 85 of them. So I encourage anybody that's disgruntled to pony up some more.
So I'm going to tell you what I think of that. That was Coach Mark Stoops of Kentucky after the beatdown this week that they suffered at the hands of Georgia. Yes. I'm not bothered by this at all. If they said this about Florida State, I'd be like, you're damn right. He even mentioned in the quote, you can do that now. And so we want to do that too. So it's going to take an all-out effort from the boosters, the fans, everybody. Donate more, and you'll see a better result on the field against a team that is vastly superior to us. And Kentucky has a pretty decent NIL fund. I'm sure most of it goes to basketball these days. They are able to pony up for a couple select players in football, but yeah, of course, programs like Georgia and the like are going to be able to do that at a better pace than you are at Kentucky. And Georgia fans came out this week all over my timeline and thought that this was a shot at Kirby, basically saying that he buys all his players. That's why Georgia's good, which I don't know. I mean, he's a good coach, but that's also probably why they're good, because they have all the best players. What are your thoughts on this?
So I haven't seen all of those comments. I did see Aaron Murray, who I love Aaron to death, does a tremendous job at the start of his career and this budding career and what he's doing. He made a comment about how he's like, I just feel like this is such a, like you said, you weren't going to complain. He's like, I'm not complaining. And then you are complaining. I'm so tired of having conversations with people. And it's like, hey, can I ask you a question? And then they give you an answer. Like if I got into a wreck on my way to work and I said, hey, got a flat tire on my way to work, is that making an excuse, or is that telling you what happened as to why I'm late for work?
Right. Yeah.
That's
what happened.
Right. If the flat tire happens to be your favorite 4-star recruit and he wears a G on the side of his helmet, then one fan base is going to get real upset about it and take everything personally, because they always do. And that's a lot like most fan bases. Like I'm not just singling Georgia out on that. The pushback I'm going to give is when he brought up the fact that it was like, well, like he says he's not complaining and Georgia goes out and buys these players. Where I have the biggest issue
in too, which is legal now, by the way. Now, technically, I don't think you can just go out and pay for play,
Right.
but you get what he's
Did
saying.
he ever say that Kirby is only good because he pays for players?
No, he didn't.
Did he ever say anything about Georgia's only won national championships because they've paid for players?
No, he did not.
Did he say anything at all or remotely close to the fact that Kirby and what his success has been here is like needs to have an asterisk next to it, or like needs to have, I pronounce that word horribly, or like that the only reason that like teams are good or that they're not any good or that whatever is because of a lack of funding? Or did he state an obvious fact and then people got offended by it somehow? Because here's another obvious fact. And if you're going to be upset about that and go down some weird ass fucking road where you're like, oh, well, he's throwing a slight at him, this is what he really meant. Well, here's an actual fact. And I say it all the time. If we're going to talk about sports, we're going to talk about college football, we're going to do it in factual reality. Do you know who spent the most money in recruiting in the last year of college football?
Was it Kentucky?
It was not. It was not. They finished 30th. They finished 30th. In fun fact, so it's actually Georgia. Georgia finished $1.35 million ahead of every other team in the country. They also finished $1.53 million ahead of any other team in the SEC. There is another fun fact I can give you is that Georgia spent $4.51 million last year alone. In the past 5 years combined, Kentucky football has spent $4,218,563 in recruiting. If you ask the man a question and he gives you an answer, you don't get to sit there and bitch about the fact of what you think he might be saying just because you want to be offended. It blows my mind. The level of like anger, just desperately trying to be upset about something and like not being able to have, and this is for all fans, this is not just for Georgia, but this desperate sense of like, I have got to be pissed off about something. Somebody's going to say something slighted to me. And if you want a reason to not do that, Georgia fans, like this is to y'all, don't be Tennessee fans. Like, not everyone's out to get you guys. And I think what Stoops said is pretty factual. The other part of it is that, like, if anything, it's a compliment. like you got deeper pockets, you got a deeper roster, and you just beat the fucking shit out of them by 38 points. So who cares? We're just desperately trying to find reasons to be mad. I'm not. I'm just mad.
That's good. I'm glad that you're mad today. We've got a lot of picks, a lot of good games this weekend, including the marquee matchup of the weekend, which is Oregon and Washington, which I am not seeing on the side now that I'm looking at it. There it is. I don't see it on my
Oregon
side.
and Washington.
You want to start that yet?
We do. You want to just start off right at the bat?
All right, yeah, we'll start there because I think this is by far the best game. I'm really excited about this game. 3:30 on ABC. Number 8, Oregon, 5-0. At number 7, Washington, who's also 5-0. Washington currently a 3-point favorite as we record on Wednesday afternoon. Total 67. Fun fact, game day's there, so that's not the fun fact, but that's just a fact. This is the first time both programs have been ranked in the top 10 in the 123-year history of the rivalry.
That's crazy.
So that's pretty cool. This is the biggest game they've ever had against each other. Both teams are coming off a bye, so they should be well rested. Washington won this game last year in Eugene, 37-34 on a 43-yard field goal with 51 seconds left in the game. Man, I can't wait for this. You've got two of the top 3 Heisman frontrunners right now, I would say, facing off against each other. And Michael Penix, I think you pronounced it last episode, Penix, which is just a little, I don't know if we should be doing that.
No.
It's just a little.
Penix.
Yeah, Michael Penix.
Yeah. And listen, here's the thing. It's starting to get cold up there. So you don't know if Penix is going to be his full self. Sometimes
They may
in the
shrivel.
cold weather, he might shrink up in the moment. You know what I mean? Right. So I think that's a whole other thing. We're fucking children. This is ridiculous.
That is too. All right. So Michael Penix and Bo Nix. Man, what do you think about this game? Because the favorite has covered the spread in 21 of Oregon's last 24 games, so that's not great for them.
Mm-hmm.
But Oregon has won 4 of its last 6 games as an underdog against top 10 ranked teams.
Oregon's won 15 of their last 18 against Washington. Oregon owns Washington in this series. 3 of the last 4 games have been decided by 4 or less points. I think there's a lot of fun that's going to be happening in this game. This has, to me, this feels like Pacific Northwest Bama LSU this year. And the reason why I say that specific game is, man, you got both teams coming off a bye week. There's so much on the line. You are going to have a clear-cut favorite in the Pac-12 after this game, and maybe they could challenge for it's going to take at least a pole position on a potential college football playoff appearance, because I think both of these teams are top 5 teams. I know they're both ranked in the top 10, and I know it's early in the season. I think both of these teams are top 5 teams. I will say that Washington has been so good all season long, right? And they have really jumped on teams, and playing in that environment is going to be very, very tough. However, I'll also say that Oregon is more of a complete team to me. I know that we've talked about how Washington should be number 1 and all that kind of stuff, and they had a couple weeks ago. I know they scored in every phase of the game, and I'm a huge fan of stuff like that. I will also say that I think that Oregon is a better defensive team. I think they have not as much offensive firepower, but not that far from it. And we saw what they did against Colorado with some of the fake punt stuff. So it's they can be dangerous in special teams too. So I think it's a very evenly matched, really, really good game.
I do too. And really, the 3 points, I don't know what these days home field gets you as far as points on the spread, but historically, that this spread would say that Vegas thinks these 2 teams are basically a pick 'em if it was on a neutral field.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to take Oregon +3. I don't know if they'll win the game. I actually think just because it's at home, I'll take a nail biter win for Washington, 33-31. But I've got Oregon covering the +3. That would be the bet. If you're looking to get a little crazy, maybe you take them on the money line if you think they're, because I agree with you. I think their defense is better than Washington's. They can run the ball better than Washington.
Right.
And I just think they have a more balanced offense. And so because it's at home, I'm not fully confident in the pick against Washington, but and again, I think they could probably win the game. So, but my bet would be Oregon +3, 33-31. Washington wins at home.
So anytime there's a game like this, I really want to look at the fact that all right, it's at home. This is a tough place to play. And then you look at some of the other stuff, I think that are some of the lazier narratives, like Bo Nix on the road. Is Bo Nix going to be good on the road? He struggled so much at Auburn, in his career there. They struggled earlier on the road this season against Texas Tech. I think they won that game 38-30, and that was kind of by the hair of their chinny chin chin type of game. Here's the thing, though. Any kind of game like this, I fully expect Washington to come out really good on script, really, really good on script. They are one of the best, if not the best, offenses in the entire country, and they've got weapons all over the field. Now, that being said, I think that Oregon has a better chance in this game of being able to play ball control because they can run the football effectively too, not just through the air. I think Washington averaged 64% of their pass play or their plays were pass plays. They're not as balanced as you would expect, even though they have put up numbers in the run game as well. But in this game, any type of big game like this, for me, it kind of boils down to who's tougher. And I feel like this is an odd thing I feel like I'm going to say, but I feel like Oregon is much tougher than Washington because we're talking about an Oregon team that we saw what they did against Colorado. I know that was at home, but they play better defense. They play really well on the lines of scrimmage. That's a team that gave up 5 sacks a year ago. I think after the Colorado game, they only give up 2 so far throughout the season. I like them to win because I think they're going to be a tougher team in the trenches. So I've got Oregon winning 38-30.
Awesome. I hope it's a shootout like we think. I mean, the total was suggested, but we'll see. I haven't looked at the weather, but it is in Seattle, cold and rainy.
Overcast and rainy.
Yeah, would favor Oregon because they can run the ball better. So we'll see how it plays out.
Not even a chance of grunge music.
Love grunge music. Let's go to this game here in the SEC. This is a 3:30 game as well. This one's on the SEC network. Florida, who is 4-2 at South Carolina, who is 2-3. Yet South Carolina favored by 2 points as of right now. Total 51.5. It's been thrown around on social media a lot lately since the Kentucky game. Billy Napier 1-7 away from home as the coach of Florida. Florida as a program has lost 13 of its last 14 on the road, including in 2021 in Columbia. They lost by 23 points.
Yeah.
Florida handled Vandy last week. That's fine. Graham Mertz put up good numbers. And I actually like what Billy Napier's done with Graham Mertz. He's not making him take over a game. He's throwing like 80% completion. So everything's being set up for Mertz on offense, which I like. South Carolina's coming off a bye, so they should be well rested. Now, I don't know if it sounds like Juice Wells isn't going to play in this game. Beamer came out and said he's very doubtful. I don't know. Where should we start here?
I don't fucking know. I mean, like, this game is like, it feels like it should have so much more, for like lack of better words and pardon the pun, but like juice to this game. I don't like it because I really don't like all the talk around it of like, is this like I've seen people say like, is this the biggest game of Shane Beamer's career at South Carolina? Like, is it a must win? Same with Billy Napier. And I think it like whoever wins this game has a good chance of finishing fourth in the SEC East. Awesome. Like, but that's like if you're going to use this game as like a stepping stone or like a building block into the argument of, you know what, like if Beamer lost this game at home to Florida and we should have won that game, and you end up down the road, you're only 6-6 or 5-7. Like it's not like losing this game for either team is going to keep you from what?
Right.
The Gasparilla Bowl? Like, who fucking cares? Like, and I hate to say that, but at the same time, it's like, this is not some, man, there's so much high stakes in this game. This is a must-win situation. I just don't believe it. And so I think that, like, if this game was on a neutral field or in Florida, I would sit here and say, take Florida every day of the week. I think they're a better team. I think they're a more complete team. Graham Mertz has been a lot better than people have given him credit for. And the other part is like, all right, we try to look at South Carolina. Like, what are the things that they don't do well that you can take advantage of? And that is they're horrible up front. Like, they're horrible up front. But we've seen this now for like halfway through the season where it's like they're not going to try to run the football. I mean, because they know they're not going to be able to. And if you want to take advantage of that, it's like get in the backfield, pressure the quarterback, and pressure Spencer Rattler. But both of these teams are tied for dead last in the SEC in sacks so far this season with 9 apiece. So it's not like Florida's going to take advantage of this bad O-line. I want to pick Florida. I really do. But it's hard, especially for what we saw against Kentucky, and they just got boat raced. I got to take Carolina just only because they're at home. And I would take it like in the least exciting fashion. I'd say like 21-20.
Yeah. So you'd have Florida covering then?
I guess, yeah. I would not bet this game at all.
No. Beamer said on the bye week that they used that time to evaluate the O-line, think kind of outside the box on how to protect Spencer Rattler.
Mm-hmm.
Who got sacked in their last game 6 times against Tennessee. Now, Tennessee does lead, I want to say, the country, if not maybe the SEC, in sacks per game.
Mm-hmm.
Them and A&M, or I think it's the SEC.
A&M leads at 26.
But per game, on a per game basis, I think
they do.
Tennessee actually has them. Florida has failed to cover the spread in 9 of its last 10 road games against non-AP ranked teams. So that's not great for them. I also, for South Carolina, I like that they just got completely embarrassed by Florida last year, 38-6. So revenge has to be on the mind here. Also, if you look at South Carolina, man, their 3 losses are to UNC, Georgia, and Tennessee, who are combined 15-1. So even though they're 2-3, I don't think that's a total accurate reflection of where they're at as a program. Shane Beamer, 3-0 against the spread with extra rest at South Carolina, covering by 3 touchdowns per game. They actually won all 3 of those games outright as underdogs.
Oof.
So, and the last thing, this isn't a soft factor at all. This is a just fact. It's Cocktober now. So I'm going to take South Carolina 27, Florida 24.
Okay.
I was with you though. I almost picked Florida as well. I could see it, and I'm with you. I would not bet this game.
It's so hard to pick them to win this game only because of the fact that like they've just been so bad on the road, and it stretches back to the last 3 years. So I can't do it.
All right, let's stay in the SEC at the same time. 3:30 on CBS. Texas A&M 4-2 at number 19, Tennessee, 4-1. Current line 3.5 for Tennessee. Total 55.5. A&M obviously coming off a pretty crushing loss for them against Alabama at home. A&M has won 2 in a row against Tennessee. They won in double overtime at home in 2016, and they won in 2020, 34-13 in Neyland. But A&M has lost 7 straight road games. They've lost each of their last 11 games as a road underdog. Not great.
Ooh.
Tennessee, on the other hand, hasn't lost a home game in nearly 2 years. Won 12 straight, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is. Tennessee and A&M rank 1, 2 in the country in average sacks per game.
Yeah.
So I worry about. Yep.
Do you know what they rank in sacks allowed? As you can hear me clicking through, trying to find. Oh, okay, never mind. It's not that bad. Tennessee's only given up 6 all year.
Okay. Tennessee also has an extra week to prepare, which is big. They're coming off of a bye. I worry about the spot for A&M. If
Really?
they weren't coming off that loss to Bama, I think I'd be more inclined to pick A&M here. But because they did, and Tennessee's coming off a bye, and it's at home for Tennessee, I like Tennessee to win this game, and I like them to barely cover the spread. I hate that hook, but I'll take Tennessee 28, A&M 24.
Strap in.
I hate betting on Joe Milton. I just do.
Here's the thing. Now, I've said this a bunch, and like Brooks Austin's a guy that I love and the work he does, and he's the first person I've seen really bring it up, and like the way you beat Tennessee, okay, the way you beat Tennessee, because as much as we talk about how big that offense is, and I've been saying this for a minute, like the whole thing about throwing it deep and what we saw with Hendon Hooker last year and Jalen Hyatt, a lot of people's idea of Tennessee's offense is, well, it's gimmicky because they spread you out so wide, and then on top of that, what they do is they throw the ball deep, because we saw Hendon Hooker hitting Jalen Hyatt, and I'm not trying to overblow like one specific game or say it's all because of this, because I'm a Bama guy, but like as with a lot of things, a lot of identity and a lot of facts, I'll say, are made in games against Alabama. And one part about the Tennessee offense I feel like people have a misconception of is, well, they're throw the ball deep and they're airing it out constantly because of what they saw last year against Alabama. It's a run-first offense. And the way to stop that offense is, because they are going to spread you out, is you have to stop the run with light boxes. You have to have 5 or 6 guys in the box, and that's it. You can't be bringing safeties down. You cannot put safeties on slot receivers like you saw last year against Bama. And if there's a defensive line and a front 7 or a front 6 in this case that is equipped and capable of doing this, it's A&M. Like, and you look at the conference, especially Georgia, maybe Bama, we'll see next week, but A&M, I firmly believe, can stop Tennessee's run game. And that is, if they can't run the football, like we heard all offseason about how Joe Milton is going to air the ball out and throw it, like 100 yards and all that kind of shit. And then you look at like some of the numbers, like from like, I know our buddy Clark Brooks or Clark Brooks, SC StatCat. I don't know how I'm drawing a blank on his name. I think I'm still hungover from the Braves game on Monday. Anyway, like game. Joe Milton, the Phillies fan was not thrilled. Incredible ending. No, so like Joe Milton, a majority of his like I think he is like either however you want to look at it, like last in the SEC in throws in terms of like yards away from the line of scrimmage. Like he's averaging like 2 yards from the line of scrimmage on his like per throw attempt, right? Like, so what I'm trying to say basically is like a majority of his throws come within the first 2 yards of the line of scrimmage, because there's so many screens and so many like, slip screens and bubble screens and all that kind of shit, hoping the receiver will get out in space, which is weird to me because like we've heard again all off season, Milton can throw the ball 90 yards. You got a bunch of speedy receivers. They just don't run that kind of offense. Now, what beat A&M last week? And sure, Bama had a couple of really, really big, like, they had a couple of like busted coverages, especially early on, and some deep balls. But what beat A&M was the intermediate passing game that Jalen Milroe he excelled at last week and the week before, really. And Joe Milton doesn't do that. He does not beat you 8 to 10 yards at a time. And to be honest, I think he's too greedy to do it. I think he wants to throw the ball deep, and I think he wants to air it out. And he does not have the accuracy for 60 straight minutes to do that. I think A&M's a better team. I think that they are going to do what A&M and Jimbo Fisher have done in the past, which is sorry, I'm in Atlanta. My parents just sent me a text. They got Pepper a new dog tag, so there's that. I think that what he's going to want to do is try to beat them in the intermediate routes, which is exactly what Milroe did last week. And the other thing is this too: A&M is a really good football team, and I think they're going to come out here and do what everyone does not want to see, which is probably just Undertaker gif, like come back to life, because they are a good football team. And you go back to what I said about the light boxes. You're talking about a team that has 38 tackles for loss and 20 sacks in their last 3 games combined. That is absurd. I mean, that those are absurd numbers. To put that in perspective, I've got the numbers put up here right now. Like, to put that in perspective, the total sacks, like they've had 20 in the last 3 games. That is more than 10 of the other 14 or 10 of the other 13 teams in the conference for the entire year, and they've done it in the last 3 games. I think A&M goes on the road, and I think they win. They have more roster talent. I think Max Johnson is a good quarterback, and I just think that I know Tennessee's coming off a bye, but if I'm also being honest, I wonder how much of that bye week was spent talking about the game after this. Like, I know you got to be focused on A&M a little bit, but you just can't convince me that they spent the entire 2 weeks not looking ahead a little bit to next week, which is a massive, massive game for them. So I like A&M to go on the road. I like them to win. And I'll take A&M outright, not even just covering the spread. I'll take them outright 27 to 24.
That'd be a big win for Jimbo.
It would. You'd hate it, but yeah, it would be.
Yeah, maybe I would. All right, let's go to another coach that's been a little under fire lately. 7:30 p.m. game on ABC. Number 25 Miami, who is 4-1, at number 12 UNC, who's 5-0. UNC currently a 3.5-point favorite at home. Total 57. Biggest question is where
USC's not home. Oh, UNC. I'm dumb. Okay,
yeah.
So I'm looking at the screen.
My biggest question in this game is, where is Miami's collective heads at right now? It didn't seem like the players were too happy after the game, directly at their coach, when you have the camera on the center saying, why the fuck did we do that? Why the fuck did we run the ball?
Multiple times.
Yeah. Which is a direct reflection on the head coach. No matter who, it's come out this week that maybe it was the O-line coach's idea to run the ball. Look, if you're the head coach, you have the final say. And Chris Ball's always done that. We've talked about it ad nauseum.
Yeah.
UNC's coming off a game where they blasted a decent Syracuse team, 40-7. Drake May in that game was 33 of 47 for 442 yards, 3 touchdowns, 55 rushing yards, and another touchdown. Tez Walker, we didn't mention this, but he's finally eligible. Mm-hmm. So thank you, NCAA, for that.
By the way, real quick on that, because I don't want to get into this because everyone knows I hate the NCAA, whatever. Did you see how the NCAA they handled that? And they were like,
"Yeah, they
if they would have just done the right thing from the beginning and just fuck off, right. Fuck you guys. You guys have never once said anything in the interest of the player, and you guys are like, well, they could have handled better, but it's fine.
No, I'm sure." Tez Walker played 56 snaps last week, so he's clearly in game shape, ready to go. That's a big addition for UNC. UNC seems like one of the least talked about undefeated teams in the country right now. Like, everybody likes Drake May, but UNC has won the past 4 games against Miami. Last year, they won 27-24 on the road. Miami hasn't won in Chapel Hill since 2017. I still think Miami's a good team. They dominated the box score. If you look at the box score against Georgia Tech, they were the much better team, but turnovers and the end of the game blunder forced them to lose. So the line is tricky. I think it's begging you to take UNC. So I think Miami has enough to keep pace with UNC on offense. So I'm going to play Miami plus 3.5, but I think UNC will win the game outright, 30-28.
I love what you said about why we're not talking about UNC that much. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I think that they are clearly one of the better teams in the country. Like, the fact that they're ranked even behind Bama is like, kind of shocking to me. I don't really understand why. Why can't I ever just wear a hat normally? I really don't understand how they're undefeated. Drake May has been awesome. Like the quarterback play in general this year has been really, really special. And I hope that everyone appreciates it because like not to be like, dramatic about it, but like this is like a incredible year for quarterback talent across the country. And usually there's only 5 guys that get invited to New York, and I'm sure there's gonna be people that are upset about it. But Drake May is playing about as good a ball as you could play right now. Just been incredible. That's also a guy that like I even kind of doubted coming into the season where I knew he was good, but it was like, well, you don't have Phil Longo anymore. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I was pretty down on UNC, to be honest. And it's been a really, really impressive showing for them this year. They're at home, right? Like they were coming off a bye last week, I think, and they just torched whoever they played. And that was like in a spot too, where it's like, I don't think they were a massive favorite, but they just, boat raced them, right? Like
Syracuse 40-7.
that's insane to me because
Yeah.
Syracuse isn't that bad of a team. We saw Syracuse play a little bit toe to toe with Clemson a few weeks before that or the week before. So I like UNC in this game. I think that like Mario Cristobal in big games in general has not been good. I am okay with Miami being ranked because they should be undefeated. They should be. But like your mental toughness and your like, I don't know, confidence has to be fractured a little bit if you're Miami because of how bad of a way that was to lose. So I like UNC. I like them at home. What was your score?
30-28.
30-28. Yeah. I like UNC. I think they run away with this one late in the fourth. I like UNC 38-20.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a big one.
It'd be a big one.
Man, 6-0 UNC. I don't think people are ready for that, obviously, because nobody talks about them.
It's like every time I see the top 12, I look at it and I'm like, okay, why is Bama behind USC? And then I look one back and I'm like, why is UNC behind Bama? Like because like I just don't get it. But yeah, like it's a long season, so.
Let's go back to the SEC here.
Well, that's fine. Let's do that one.
So we are looking at a 7:00 game on ESPN, night game in Death Valley. Auburn 3-2 at number 22, LSU 4-2. LSU currently an 11-point favorite. It's a weird number.
Yeah.
Total of 60.
So what are they trying to say? 30, 35, 24?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pretty good math.
It does sound pretty good too. That sounds like I'll tell
you right now, if Auburn scores 24 points on LSU, I don't want to finish that sentence.
LSU's defense is really bad.
It is really bad. It is really bad. But I will also say, I don't think that like this is like such an interesting game. First off, if anyone says Tiger Bowl, I'm gonna punch you in the mouth. And you know what else, Tyler? Now that I'm kind of coming out of my fog a little bit, the Celsius is kicking in. Missed a massive opportunity to not just put the same fucking logo on here at the bottom with the orange and blue tiger and the same exact type of tiger over here in purple and gold. Massive missed opportunity. This is an interesting game because it's all like seemingly something always happens, right? Like some really, really good games. This one, Les Miles lost his job because of this. They measured a Tiger Stadium on the Richter scale because of this rivalry. I was at the game 2 years ago when I've actually been to this game in Baton Rouge. This is the first time I won't have gone to it in the last 5 years when it's in Baton Rouge. So shout out to Mickey Sheremy. I'm sorry I couldn't make it. It's a great game, great SEC matchup. Auburn has only won there once in Death Valley since like Y2K, since like 99. And it was the last time they played there. But I never thought I would say this. They had a much better quarterback last time they were there. Even Auburn Bo Nix was much better than what they have here now. What I want to see out of Auburn is like, one, this game is traditionally close. 6 of the last 7 have been decided by 5 points or fewer. And it's been a really, really good game most of the time these two meet up. However, I want to see Auburn coming off a bye week. Can they come into this game? Is there more trust and more efficient, like crispness in the passing game? Like if it's Peyton Thorne, if it's Robbie Ashford, whatever, are they able to get it going a little bit more with those receivers? Because right now it looks very disjointed. It looks very, I don't know, just like they're not on the same page, which you've had all offseason to get on, right? So I wonder how that looks going into this game. And the other thing is LSU still has all their goals in front of them. And I've been saying this nonstop. Like I wish that Mizzou would have beat LSU as a Bama guy, because I would love to see LSU out of this race immediately. It has been since 2005 since we have not seen an SEC team, at least one, make the BCS National Championship or the College Football Playoff, right? So you cannot convince me that even if LSU has 2 losses, if they run the table, I mean, think about this, Tyler. If they run the table from now until the end of the year, and they just keep winning, and what's left on that schedule, when they play Bama, and then they get to Atlanta, if they somehow beat what is probably going to be an undefeated Georgia team, like, you can't convince me that they're just automatically not going to make the playoff. You can't. And so there's still a lot to play for LSU. And now they're back home. Like, they've played some big games already, and they've all been away from home. Florida State, neutral site, at Mississippi State, at Mizzou, at Ole Miss. And now you get to come back at night in Death Valley. Fuck, man. I got LSU big in this one. I think they go out there and prove a point. I don't see them scoring under 40. No matter what the defense for Auburn looks like. I think that their defense comes out and plays a little bit better and looks better, just because at the very least, Auburn will be very turnover prone. And I don't see them going into Baton Rouge, and this game even being remotely close. So I'll say that 60 sounds nice with the total, but I'll take LSU 41-21.
Okay. Obviously the Auburn offense has struggled. Maybe during the bye week they found something. Peyton Thorne is last in the SEC in passer rating. So it's not going to, even though LSU's weakness is the DB room currently, I don't think they're going to beat him through the air. The Auburn bases its offense on the run game. Charquez Hunter, Brian Battie, even Peyton Thorne's been a pretty capable runner. He's actually the second leading rusher on the team. I like that Logan Diggs has emerged for LSU in the run game. He's got 488 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels is one of the best players in the country this year, regardless of position. He's been SEC Offensive Player of the Week 3 times, and he leads an offense that's third best in the FBS in total offense. So it's a night game in Death Valley. It's a weird number, and because the LSU defense has been so bad, I'm going to take Auburn to cover. I don't think they'll win the game, but I'm going to take LSU 35, Auburn 27.
Oh, okay.
I think Auburn will get some points in this game.
Well, you're stupid.
Let's go to UCLA and Oregon State. This is an 8 p.m. game on Fox. Number 18, UCLA, who is 4-1, at number 15, Oregon State, who is 5-1. The line is 3.5 for Oregon State. Total 55. Bottom line, I'm always going to take Oregon State at home at night to win a game.
3.5.
I don't know if they're going to cover. I don't have them covered, but I'm going to take them to win as long as there's a hook there.
Yeah.
I like UCLA to cover the game,
but
I think UCLA actually might be the better team here.
Really,
especially by the end of the year. I love UCLA's defense. They're only giving up 13.5 points per game.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be low scoring, but it's going to be one of those weird nights in Corvallis that something kooky happens and they win by a point. I'm going to take Oregon State 24-23.
Yeah, I don't think that's that far off. You said, hold on, 30. Wait, what? 24?
24-23. 24-23. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's that far off. I think that I will say that in the one game that I have seen on the road, because like this schedule, I'm looking at it right now. The schedule is you got Coastal Carolina, right, and that was like a close game until Dante Moore came in the fourth quarter. You won by 14, but it was like a 1-point game going into the fourth. At San Diego State, you beat them 35-10 on the road. Great. North Carolina Central, I'm not even going to count that. But on the road against Utah, I mean, you struggled mightily, especially in the pass game. It was his first game on the road. Dante Moore, that is. 15 of 35, which is 43%, for 234 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And now, I'm not saying he's not going to grow up in this game. But I look at last week, and he was 22 of 44, which is 50% exactly. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. One thing you cannot do if you expect to beat Oregon State, because the one thing I love about Oregon State, I've said this after they played Utah, they are so fundamentally sound. I love watching them play despite all the jokes we make about Oregon State, I love watching them play because they are so fundamentally sound. They take the right angles on defense. They tackle very, very well. They do all the things up front that that a lot of good football teams do. They're really, really well coached. At home in Corvallis, where I can confirm dreams go to fucking die, like Oregon State money line is the lock of the week. Like I just, it's a true freshman quarterback going on the road in a hostile environment at night. I don't even agree with you that I think UCLA is the better team. I think you're just saying that because you saw them score on defense last week, and because you're an idiot. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah, I get that.
no, all those are very fair assessments, Chris. No, I think Oregon State wins this game. I got Oregon State outright. I honestly I think this is a game where they pull away, like in the second half. I got Oregon State 31-21.
And the last game of the weekend, which may
No, we got
rival.
two left. We got two.
What did I miss? Oh yeah, we did miss that. Okay, let's go to that one. This is a 7:30 game on SEC Network. Missouri 5-1 at number 24 Kentucky, who is also 5-1. Kentucky a 2.5 point favorite, total 52.5. Devin Leary was awful last week. He's been pretty bad all year, but particularly last week, 10 of 26 for 128 yards against Georgia in that beatdown. In SEC games to date, he's completing only 46% of his passes. LSU or Missouri obviously coming off the heartbreaker to LSU after being up 22-7 in that game. They end up losing by 10. You and I are all in on Brady Cook and Luther Burden at this point. I saw that Eli Drinkwitz said Cody Schrader is listed as, quote, questionable at best for this game.
Oh, no.
I hope he plays because he had a great game against LSU. He's up to almost 600 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns on the season. He does have a strained quad muscle, so we'll see if he plays. But that Kentucky defense in the passing game has not been good this year. They got torched by Georgia last week, and now Brady Cook and Luther Burden enter the chat. And what does Brad White, Kentucky defensive coordinator, have for that passing attack? Missouri hasn't won in Lexington since 2013. It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Kentucky, they do rank in the top 30 of limiting explosive plays through the air and on the ground. And Missouri's offense is basically predicated on generating big plays. Through both the air and the ground. Weirdly enough, if you look at explosive offense metrics, Kentucky is one of the most explosive offenses in the country.
Yeah.
Down to down, they're pretty pedestrian. Good news for Kentucky. Missouri has a knack of giving up big plays, and Kentucky is second in rushing explosive plays, 24th in passing explosive plays, 50th or worse in all other efficiency metrics.
Yeah.
I'll take Kentucky to win this in a nail biter, 35-33, high scoring. But I think Kentucky gets it done at home. Missouri can't win in Lexington. You just don't walk into Kroger Field and come out easily with a victory.
The Kroger toes. Let me tell you something right now. You're right. And Kroger Field is a very underrated environment. I think it'll be electric this weekend. I think this is a big game. Like I joked around earlier about the South Carolina-Florida game. I think this is to be honest, okay. Give me a second. Let me gather my thoughts here. A&M, Tennessee, much bigger thing nationally, right? Like, because of those two brands, not even where the two teams are. UCLA and Oregon State, those are two ranked teams. Obviously, Washington and Oregon, massive game. And then you talk about Notre Dame and USC, which we'll get to next. This is, I think, a top 2 or 3 game in the country this weekend, and it means a lot of who's going to finish where. I don't know why my voice is so loud. Kentucky has beaten Mizzou 7 of the last 8 years, and it's always in some horrific fashion. It seems like some kind of dumb shit always happens to Mizzou in this game. There was like the play, I think it was 2019, when there's a blatant pass interference call that's gifted to Mizzou. I think they got and then the next play, it's like offensive pass interference. They didn't give it back to them. I think they lost by 1 point or something crazy. If you're looking at this game, because whoever wins this game, I think firmly finishes second in the SEC East. which is a big deal this year, right? Like this is a New Year's Day Bowl team. I think whoever wins this game.
And Missouri still has to play Georgia, so you never know. I mean,
right. And I will say this though, like this is always a close game. You're right about Mizzou. They have not been able to win. I mean, like you think about 2013 and 2014, those are the 2 years that Mizzou won the division. And outside of those years, like I said, 7 of 8. Like they have been dominated in this rivalry, and they've struggled against teams like that Stoops has put out in the past that are physical and run the football first and all that kind of stuff. Here's where I'm at with it though. If you were talking about two teams that are coming into this game in the most similar spot, like they're both coming off a loss, but they had high hopes going into it, and all of that stuff sounds very similar to each other, right? I don't think these two teams are anywhere close to being like in the same mental place as they should be coming into this game. And what I mean by that is, if you're Mizzou and you're looking at that LSU game, you blew a 15-point lead, you lost at home, you had every chance to win that game, and your defense couldn't do it, and then even worse, Brady Cook finally came back down to earth, threw a pick 6 to end the game, and all this kind of stuff comes down shattering, and your perfect season, the undefeated start is gone. That's so different than a Kentucky team going on the road against mighty Georgia, where you think we're 5-0. We got Liam Cohen back. We've actually fared pretty well and kept these games close in this rivalry. And last time we were here, it was Will Levis had one of the best games of his career. We've got Devin Leary. He could step up. I mean, I saw Kentucky fans, and this has nothing to do with the game, but I saw Kentucky fans with a lot of confidence going into last week, and I'm sure that the team did too. What is your mental, like, I don't want to say health, but like, what is your confidence going into this game after you just got fucking skull dragged by 38? Because it can't be good. Like, right. and again, I have no problem with what Mark Stoops said about getting players and all that kind of stuff. And I think Mark Stoops is a tremendous coach, and he's been really great at this program. I think he's a better coach than Eli Drinkowitz. I think that they play a better brand of football consistently since the time he's been there, and especially for what the SEC, like, what is involved in being a successful team in the SEC. I don't know what they have in this game, because I watched that secondary get torched last week by Carson Beck in Georgia. And I'm not saying that this is Carson Beck in Georgia, but like, man, you look at Mizzou, and they've got one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, statistically speaking, through half the season. And then statistically speaking, they have the best receiver in the country. So I got Mizzou. Like, I think Mizzou's a better team, and I think this means more to them. And I hate to say it, because I think these are two programs I think everyone casually will pull for, but I like Mizzou to go in and get a win and keep their season going, because I think they're a better football team right now. I got Mizzou. Hold on, let me think here. What's the total?
The total is 52.5.
Ooh, I got Mizzou 27-21.
Okay. All right, I like that. Let's go to the last game of the week. It seems like Notre Dame has just been in a big game every single week for the last month. 7:30 on NBC. Number 10 USC, who is 6-0, at number 21 Notre Dame, who's 5-2. They've played 7 consecutive weeks.
Yeah.
Notre Dame favored by 3, total 62.5. Obviously, Notre Dame coming off 3 really hard-fought games against Ohio State, Duke, and Louisville, dropping 2 of them, but they were all close. Louisville kind of ran away from them late, but this is where we're finally going to get to see USC, I think, tested. Yeah. Not in terms of, they've been tested. Obviously, they went to triple overtime against Arizona last week.
Yeah.
They were tested by Colorado towards the end of that game. But this is a legitimate defense and an offense that it's not outstanding, but they can put up points. Where are you leaning in this game?
No, you start, because I'm looking up stuff that I should have already looked up.
I'm worried that Notre Dame has played 7 consecutive weeks, and the last month has been all big games, nationally televised. Mm-hmm. But I'm off the USC bandwagon. I think it's going to be a really close game, and obviously the spread would dictate that. But I just think the defense of Notre Dame has got to come play here and make a couple stops because we know the USC defense isn't going to.
No.
It's going to be super high scoring. I think that the number of 62.5 is probably too low.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a really, really close game throughout. I don't see either team pulling away from one another. Because of Caleb Williams in that offense, I think USC will cover the game. I think Notre Dame squeaks this one out. It's going to be a battle, but I've got 35-34 Notre Dame.
Okay.
I hate you. I mean, USC's quote unquote defense is just terrible. And I mean, I just can't trust them. And I can trust Notre Dame's defense to get a couple stops against Caleb Williams in that offense.
Yeah, I think that Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, they've been through the ringer here, huh? Right? Like you said, it's like they're in a big game every week. Like they played Ohio State, and then they had Duke, and then they had Louisville. So it's 3 big games in a row against 3 really good teams, and you're able to eke out one of those wins. I mean, this team should be 4-3, if we're being honest, or they could also easily be 5-2 because they probably
they are 5-2.
Well, yeah, I know. But I'm saying they could also, like, from the same mindset of like they could have lost to Duke. They probably should have beaten,
Ohio State.
Ohio State. So I guess you say they could be 6-1.
Yeah,
that makes more sense. When I look at USC, Caleb Williams is awesome. He's awesome, and he's probably a better quarterback than Bryce Young was. And that offense is so much fun to watch. I tell you what, I've really enjoyed watching is Marshawn Lloyd have like the career and the year he's having. It's like the career we all wanted to see out of him when he came out of Delaware and went to South Carolina, because it just, for whatever reason, whether there's injuries and like an awful offensive line play, there was just always something in his way that, like, from achieving his full potential. And I think he's finally at a place now where he can achieve it. And it's been awesome to watch. Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the country right now. You got to be a surefire number 1 overall pick. He's awesome. They've got weapons.
He does what he says he did, and if it's the team that he doesn't want to go to, he's just going to stay in school because he can make just as much in NIL, according to him.
Sure. Okay. Sure. You don't have to do in the NFL? Go to fucking class. So there's that. So anyway, no, but like Brennan Rice has been a lot of fun to watch. The receivers they've got talent. They don't have a defense. And then when you look at this, it's like Notre Dame is it's not like their offense has been great. Like they weren't great against Ohio State. They weren't great against Duke. But Mike Elko is a pretty good defensive coach at Duke, right? I saw them give up 7 points to Clemson. And Ohio State has one of the best defenses in the country. No one talks about it because of all the offensive firepower they have, and then also because of the fact that we associate that team with only offense over the last 5 to 8 years. Notre Dame is a good team. Like I think they're pretty fundamentally sound. They play a good brand of football. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They're at home. Massive deal. Deal. I don't think Southern Cal is a top 10 team. I've been saying it all year. I just don't think they're that good. I think that this team is an even worse version of OU when Lincoln Riley was there, in terms of, oh yeah, man, like they put up a ton of points. They don't play defense for shit. Like this is the quintessential old school Pac-12 team where it's like they are going to score 40, they're going to give up 38. They are ranked 79th in the country in yards per carry allowed. Okay, which is, then you want to look at the offense or the defense and say, like, well, maybe they're really good in the passing game. Maybe we're just running on them. Nope. They are 84th in the country in yards per play allowed. I think this game is going to at least be close going into the fourth quarter and in the second half. I think it'll at least be close because I think Notre Dame plays too good a defense. Maybe USC is a better offense than Ohio State, right? I watched that's a very good offense from Ohio State. I watched them struggle mightily in this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think this will be at least a close game. And then you get to the fourth quarter, and I know that USC's been in this situation so far because they just had a triple overtime game against Arizona. And the only thing that can ever be triple overtime in Arizona is ballot counting, and that's about it, okay? Every 4 years. So there's that. Second off, that's the clip this week. And then second off, I think that when you talk about like what they're going to want to do in the fourth quarter, it's like back against the wall. Your season's still on the line. We're gonna line up with the best and most physical running back in the fucking country, and we're gonna see if you can stop it. And Southern Cal has not been able to stop anything. Anything. I was gonna make another joke, but I'm not going to. So I think Notre Dame wins this game in emphatic fashion in the fourth quarter. I think they punish Southern Cal in the fourth quarter. I think it's still close, but I think this is a game where like you go into the fourth and they're down 28-24, and then the final score is like a, I don't know, 37 or 38-28. I think Notre Dame wins this game. I won't say by 10 because I think USC will keep it close, but I've got Notre Dame winning. I'll say 38-33.
That'd be a fun game to watch. I don't know. I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I know you're not, but it would be nice to see USC get knocked off.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's go. Do you have best bets this week, or do you just want to post them online?
So I'll give you two that I like, and I'll go back to the SEC and two games we didn't talk about. I'll just give you where I'm somewhat leaning to with two games. Alabama's a 19.5-point favorite against Arkansas. I think this is a really good opportunity for a trap game for Alabama that is going to be closer than they're going to be comfortable with. Because if you look at Bama's schedule, you're coming off that big win against Ole Miss, and then on the road at Mississippi State, and then a huge emotional and big win on the road at College Station where everyone's doubting you. You got Tennessee next week. Huge revenge game. And you know that's been circled on the calendar, right? In between those things, you've got lowly Arkansas with one of the best quarterbacks in the country and a pretty good coach and you know, like played you pretty close the past couple of years at times. And it's an 11 a.m. kick. Like all of those things wrapped into one tell me it's a trap game. So I wouldn't bet on it because I'm not going to bet on Bama. But I think that Arkansas would cover. Now, the other one that I think is ludicrous on terms of a point spread, Vanderbilt and Georgia. Vanderbilt is a 31-point underdog to Georgia. They should be like a 51-point underdog to Georgia. I know that sounds crazy. And listen, let me build up Vanderbilt before I break them down. Vanderbilt they're trying their best, right?
They're Vanderbilt. They're Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Like, you know, but they are Vanderbilt, right? Like it's like they have a pretty good receiving core. I think it's better than people know or give them credit for because there are some really talented guys there. I think they've got capable quarterbacks, right? They started out 2-0. They're about to go 2-6. And if there's one thing I know about Kirby, that besides that he's got a bad haircut and he keeps gaining weight just like me, it's that he also loves a grudge. Kirby loves to hold a fucking grudge. And if you don't think that's true, remember when Vandy decided in 2020 they were going to skip that game so Georgia didn't get a senior night, and somehow ended up only playing 3 home games that year in the COVID year. So what did Kirby do the next year? Well, he came out and beat the shit out of Vanderbilt, like 62 to like nothing, and gave up 79 or 77 total yards of offense. It's like in the last 2 seasons combined, Georgia has outscored Vanderbilt 117 to nothing and allowed 227 total yards of offense in 2 years combined. Even worse, Tyler, do you know how many? Actually, I'm not going to play this game with you because you always fuck it up. Georgia hasn't allowed a touchdown against Vanderbilt in 5 years.
What?
Hasn't allowed a touchdown against Vanderbilt since 2018, and they scored with 2 seconds left. They have not allowed a touchdown to Vanderbilt in 5 years. I don't know if that changes or not, but I will tell you right now that like I love Georgia to cover 31. Like love Georgia to cover 31.
There's this interesting thing going around with the clock changes that these huge spreads are, and there's not that many that have been this way, but I think I actually have the stat right here. In SEC games, favorites of 30 or more have gone 9-19 against the spread since 2005. That has nothing to do with the clock, but also it's not as easy for slower paced, which Georgia runs a slow pace offense, top tier teams to cover the giant numbers with the clock rules, with the clock always moving. That'd be the only thing I have against that. Otherwise, I mean, God, 5 years.
Dude, again, 2 seconds left.
Just get in the end zone, Commodores. There's going to be, once you get there, there's going to be some fat construction workers welcoming you in. So let's just get there.
Woo! I would love to see, like, what was the movie where, like, it was A League of Their Own, when Rosie O'Donnell goes into the stands and like catches a foul ball and then comes up with like a hot dog. I would love to see a fucking Vanderbilt receiver jump over the thing, grab like a fucking Marlboro Red and a taquito out of some construction worker's mouth and just be like,
oh, that's good. I'm just envisioning that now. I hope it happens. Best bets for me, Oregon, Washington, first quarter over 14.5. Both
I like that.
Teams are averaging 13 points apiece in the first quarter, which is second and third in the country. So I like that bet. West Virginia -3 against Houston.
Wow.
Houston is bad, and Dana Holgerson's probably going to get fired. And West Virginia, I thought Neil Brown might be the first head coach fired midseason. They're 4-1, and they're the better team. I think they're much better than Houston. So even though it's on the road, I'll take them. I'll save some more maybe for what we put on social, and then I like BYU +6 against TCU. BYU off a bye. Chandler Morris not playing for TCU. TCU's offense has been bad all year with him. BYU isn't a great offense, but they have a better defense than TCU. So I'll take. I don't see TCU beating BYU by a touchdown, so I'll take BYU +6.
Yeah, you had a good week last week too.
I did, so hopefully we'll continue that.
Yeah.
All right, that's gonna be the show today. As always, we appreciate you guys listening to the show. It would really help us in the growth of the show if you would rate us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a review. We'll read the best ones on air. And like and subscribe to the YouTube page so you know when we go live on Sunday nights. Leave us a message on the hotline. This has become one of our favorite segments. Angry fans. It's been super popular. We're getting more and more calls every week because of it. So the number, 770-674-8233. Give us a call if you're angry. Give us a call if you're happy, drunk, whatever. Just be careful what you say, because the best ones will be aired on this show and on social media from SDS. Don't forget to check out all of our videos and clips from the show on Twitter at SatDownSatSouth, on Instagram and TikTok at Saturday Down South, and finally on YouTube, Saturday Down South. For Chris, I'm Tyler.
Wait, real quick, as we end the show, can I pre-call in a complaint?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm not going to answer.
Did you see RJ Young's comment about Shedeur Sanders?
Was it about his watch in his car?
Yeah, just his watch.
Okay. Here's
the 2 dumbest things I've seen on the internet today, and this is what's going to happen with Dion. 1, I love that Beardsley called this out, and I think you'll like this too. Game 3, Phillies Braves. Bryce Harper and I think it was Nick Castellanos were going into the stadium today, both wearing Deion Sanders shirts, Coach Prime, like not like Colorado Deion Sanders stuff.
Oh, I saw.
Who did Deion Sanders play for when he played Major League Baseball?
The Braves and the Yankees.
And the Reds, but yes, but he also played for the Braves, right? And they're playing the Braves today. That is one dumb thing. The other thing was this, and I'm still wrapping my head around, like, maybe this will just be its own segment with just RJ Young hate purely for me, because I don't understand this person or what's happening here. This is an actual tweet that he had yesterday, and oh god, okay, okay. So his latest tweet says, "I've seen Shedeur Sanders be his own icon," which I don't know what that means. Anyway, so yesterday there was a tweet that came around, and there was a picture of. Did you see the Shedeur Sanders thing? Like where last week they beat 1-5. They beat 1-5 Arizona State, and he sprinted to the.
By 3.
What's that?
By 3.
By 3, and he sprinted to the student section, holding up his watch. Okay, this is a really likable story still, because it's Colorado, and no one dislikes Colorado. Great colors, great stadium, cool atmosphere, all that shit. And even with all the stuff with Deion Sanders, it still could be a cool story. It is mind-blowing to me how out of the way this kid is going to make this whole thing dislikable. So he sprints to the end zone holding up his watch. This is the tweet. 1, forget that Shedeur Sanders' watch is a custom stainless steel, I'm not going to pronounce this right, Audemars Piguet Royal Oak 15500 with 30 carats of VVS diamonds. I feel like Billy Madison. I understand 3 words in that book now.
Yeah.
2, forget his watch is valued at $70,000. 3, remember he bought it when he was still playing at Jackson State. What the fuck are we talking about?
What is his point?
I don't know. I was gonna ask you. Like, I really don't know. Like,
I don't either.
It reminded me of that thing that remember that a couple years ago, and somebody was like, because I'm all for like the NIL stuff, and this kid is the most valued player in terms of NIL valuation in the entire country, and I think that's awesome, especially with the story of like came from HBCU, first year in Power 5, first year in FBS, right?
Mhm.
And is still having this big of an impact, and is like now projected to go in the first round. He's a good player. Like that part is all really cool. This part is bizarre to me because it's like we don't need to add on anything to it. The story is already cool. Like the story is already great. I don't know what we're doing here, and it makes no sense to me because I just don't fucking get it. And
I think that they want the hate to fuel them because every pregame it seems they're talking shit to the other team on the field,
Right.
and I think that they have to create hate for themselves to just keep themselves motivated. That's the only explanation because I don't get
I
it.
think you're 1000% right. Yeah.
Good.
Anyway, that's all. We'll join again next week because I'm sure I'll have even more takes. Also, it's weird for a grown man to be that obsessed with a kid. I'll say it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
For Chris, I'm Tyler. Good luck to your teams this week. Call the hotline. Again, 770-674-8233. We'll talk to you guys on Sunday night.